Building software robots is usually going to involve stringing together complex sequences and interacting with a variety of data. I can guarantee you that there are going to be times where you want to slowly step through your logic to examine that it's doing the right thing and that the correct data is being handled. There will be times when your robot is behaving erratically and it won't immediately make sense why this is happening. In cases like this, it's very important that you have strong debugging skills and you know how to use the UiPath tool to allow you to debug efficiently. If you want to follow along in this lecture, make sure you go back to this end-to-end demo that I did. In there, I've attached a resource, and you can open that project in UiPath and do the same thing that I'm doing. Along with opening that project, you'll want to go into your C drive and create a directory called robot files, and then add a few text documents. In my case, I've added text to some of them, and not added text to other files. So you can put as many documents in here as you want to. Just make sure they're text documents. So over here in UiPath, I've gone to the Start tab, I've used Open, and I've navigated to my C Development UiPath My First Robot directory. That's where I stored that project. And when I double-click on main.xaml, it opens the project. You might want to go ahead and click this play button to make sure that your robot runs. And when you do, the robot will disappear and come back. And then you'll go into that robot files directory and you'll see that there's a results.txt file containing the results that the robot emitted. I'm going to delete that file after every run. And this is a quick insert edit from the future because UiPath has released a new version which changes the user interface just a little bit. In the remainder of this video and the next video, you'll see me doing some debugging, but the window positions will be a little bit different. In this video, I'm just about to tell you that when I do debugging, I use this pin to auto-hide the activities and the properties in outline. But in this new version of UiPath, it's not necessary to do that because when you do enter debug mode, the UiPath UI automatically collapses those windows down and brings the output window and the locals window into view on the left and right side respectively. So there's no need to auto-hide the activities or properties or outline if you like them generally displayed. I personally always have the activities auto-hidden, but I have the properties and outline always showing. So you'll see if I go into execute and enter the debug mode, the locals window is very prominent on the left side and the output window is very prominent on the right side. Of course, they can be resized so you can see your workspace better in the middle. This is the default view in the new version of the software, and I'm not super thrilled by it because having all three of these windows side by side like this makes it hard to see anything in any of the windows. So just bear in mind that the new version of the software is going to look like this, but you can reposition these windows down to the bottom like you'll see me using in the remainder of these videos. You can click on the header of either one of these and drag them down and dock them to the bottom of the window by hovering over this floating icon and letting go. Now I can do the same thing with my locals, click and drag that down, and dragging it into the same region of this icon at the bottom, and now you see them top and bottom like this. So now it's just a matter of clicking on this auto hide, and now you only see the output window, and you can see the locals tab down here in the bottom, which is how the remainder of my videos go. And again, for me, I kind of like having the locals window at the bottom because oftentimes the values in here are going to be fairly long. So it's nice to be able to see them wide like this and not squished on the left and right sides respectively. So now I'll take you back to the original video. I just wanted to highlight the fact that the new version of the software does things a little bit differently. To give myself a little more screen real estate while doing these debugging demos, I'm going to hide the activities and properties and outline windows by clicking on these little pins here in each window respectively. And you can get those back later by clicking activities and then pinning it back down, and the same thing respectively with properties and outline. Now that we've got some room to stretch out, I'm going to go over here to this Execute tab, and I'll just draw your attention to the fact that you can do a normal run of the robot using this Run button or using F5, but in this lecture we're going to be focusing on this Debug button here, or using F7. Before we actually run the debugger, let's talk about this Options button right here. When I click on this, you can see that we have the ability to log activities, highlight activities, and highlight elements. I'm going to demonstrate these bottom two because highlight elements is going to depend on UiPath automating another application that's visible on the screen. We're just opening and reading text files, so there will be no elements to highlight. Before we start, I'm going to double click on my Execute tab here to keep it open. And the first thing I'll have you do is click on Open Logs. This will open up a Windows directory buried down here in your user account, app data, local UiPath logs, and it will have one or more log files in it. I'm going to delete all my log files and close up that window. So first, I'm going to demonstrate running the robot again by clicking Run. And you can see in my output directory here that I did get a results file indicating that the robot has run. I'm going to delete that again just to get rid of it. And I'll draw your attention to this output window down here at the bottom. When I click on this, that window is resizable. You can make it larger or smaller. And notice that we have two entries. My first robot execution started and ended. Now you're going to find that this is corroborated if you click on Open Logs. And you can see that this log file was generated, and if we open it up, we see that it has those same two lines in it with timestamps. So I'll delete that log and close that window. Now again, over here on the debug options, none of these things are checked. If I was to select one of these things, you'll see that there's a checkbox that shows up next to it. So I'll uncheck that again. None of them are checked. So when I run this debug, you're going to see that this output window will briefly pop up and you'll see a bunch of steps flying by. See those two steps that went by? I can confirm that my robot ran again. I'll delete my results. And I'll draw your attention back down here to the output. And notice we have those same two lines. And if we open our log file, again, we have two lines. So I'll delete that log, close the window. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the options and turn on log activities. Now when I run debug again, you'll see many more things fly by, and when I open the output window, you see that there's a line that represents the start and end of every activity. So as I scroll through, now I've got a much longer list of stuff. And again, I can turn on my timestamps if I want to by clicking that button on the left. So this is really great information if the robot is stalling in some particular place. You can see exactly how far it got and where it stopped. If I open my logs, you can see now those same things are inside our log file. And there's actually much more information about each item in the log file. You can see the log file even contains things like the values of the data as they were being processed. So I will close and delete that, close this window. And as you recall, when I ran that debugger, everything flew by pretty quickly. So there's a way to fix that. What we can do is we can click on this slow step icon, and notice that's dark gray since you've activated it. And then we can go to options again and say highlight activities. So now you can see both of those two things are checked. And highlight activities is simply going to put a yellow box around each of these activities as they are being processed. I'm not going to let the robot run all the way through. I'm going to click the stop button in the middle, but notice I can use F12 to do that. So here we go. I click on Debug, and I'm going to resize this output window a little bit smaller. So notice the robot is executing much more slowly now, step by step, and you can watch each of the activities be highlighted, and you can also see down here in the output window the exact line of what's being executed at the moment. So this is a great way to watch your robot and get a visual for what exactly is happening at any given moment. So I'll click on Stop or F12, and you can see that the robot terminates. Again, if we open logs, you're going to see that we have all that information in our log, which is great. I'll delete that file and close the window. And I'm also going to delete my results file. Of course, if I click on slow step again, that will speed the robot up, but we're still going to see our activities get highlighted. So that's a way to watch the robot work through the activities in real time. I'll press the F7 key to begin. So you can see how fast those things flashed by, and it gives you a great sense of how quickly this robot can work. In the next video, I'm going to talk about setting breakpoints on any given activity and taking a closer look during execution. But what I'll show you is, if I'm on slow step here, and I'm in debug mode, as I'm watching this thing execute, I have the ability to hit this break button. And when I do that, UiPath is going to stop in its tracks so you can examine some things. And this is very similar to setting a breakpoint in advance, but this is something you can do in real time if you detect that the robot is doing something odd and you want to dive into the locals and look at the values to see what's going on. So in the next lecture, I'll talk more about setting a breakpoint and inspecting these various values during runtime. In the previous video, I discussed how we can run our robot in debug mode and have the activities highlighted as they're being executed. In some cases, when you know there's a problem in a specific part of your robot, you want to be able to run the robot quickly and then stop at that exact point. So in that case, what we would do is turn off this slow step, and we'll leave log and highlight on. And then whichever activity you'd like to stop on, let's say for instance we want to pause on this if decision here, what I can do is I can click on that activity, click on the breakpoints, and use this toggle breakpoint menu item. You can see that this little red dot appears on that particular activity. If I was to run the robot right now, that breakpoint would be ignored. But if I click on debug, you'll see that the robot executes quickly until it gets to that point, and then it stops. And we can confirm that it stopped at the right spot by looking down here in the output. You see it says read text file executing and read text file closed. That's the activity that happens just before this. You see it right there, read text file. And what's cool is if we go into our logs and double click, you'll see that the log is being written in real time, and we can jump in here and examine details if we want to. So even though we're debugging and hitting a breakpoint, the log will continue to be updated. The usual thing you do when you're debugging is to inspect what's going on behind the scenes. So I'll zoom in here a little bit better so you can see these activities, and notice the decision we're making here is, hey, if the file contents are equal to nothing, then we're going to do something. Otherwise, we'll do something else. So I'll draw your attention to this Locals tab down here. That's going to be what we click on to have a peek behind the scenes at what these variables are doing. So notice this file contents variable, we can see what text is in it. It currently contains the words, I have text. So of course, since the file contents is not an empty string, it's going to go to this activity next. And we can see that happen by using the Step Into button up here, or F11. Step Into will allow you to navigate into the logic that's contained inside a separate file that was extracted as a separate workflow. Whereas Step Over will simply move from activity to activity, and if the particular activity is an extracted workflow that contains more activities, it will simply execute that whole thing as one unit and then move to the next activity. Whereas, like I said, if you use Step Into, that will actually go inside the external file and navigate through that logic. So since all of our activities are in this one main.xaml file, Step Into and Step Over are both going to work the same way, so I'll use both of them to demonstrate. When I click on Step Into, notice it moves to the next activity, and in our output it says now append line is executing. So this activity that's going to append line is currently in motion. When I click on Open Logs again and double click to inspect my log, like I said, the log is being written to in real time. So again, you can drill into here and see a whole bunch more data about what's going on, including the names of the text files, and you can kind of scroll back in history to sort of see what was going on. So if I click on this Step Into or F11 again, notice it says append line closed, which means that it succeeded it in that activity. Now I'll click Step Into again, and now we're back out here closing up our if. Click Step Into again, we're closing the body. Step Into, body executing. Step Into again, now we're reading a text file. And if we go to locals, you can see that the file name we're currently reading is crobotfiles doc2.txt. So if we go back and look at our files, the first time the breakpoint hit, it was reading this document. Now it's reading that document. And the next one is going to be doc3. So if I Step Into and go back to output here, read text file closed, Step Into one more time, and now we're executing our if, Step Into one more time, and we're going to append line, and notice it went to this one this time because document2.txt didn't have any text in it. If I hit Step Over, now it's back on the body, Step Over once again, read text file, Step Over, now I'm on the if. Now if I look at the file contents variable, which is being evaluated in this if statement, you can see it says I also have text. If we go into our open logs and double click to look at our log, we can look at our read text file activity that just executed in the past. And if we scroll way over here to the right, you can see that it's now, like we talked about, opening doc3.txt. So the file contents of doc3.txt says I also have text. And we can confirm that by going into our docs, opening this, and it says, I also have text. So you can see how powerful this step into and step over is going to be for seeing what's going on behind the scenes in your robot. If you want to continue to the next one, you could simply click on continue here and notice what's going to happen. Currently the file contents are, I also have text, and that's document 3, right? We know that there's one more document coming called OpenMe, and that has text that says hello from inside a file. So our expectation is if we continue, it's going to go through the rest of the activities and stop again on this if. So I hit continue, and now we're back to the if, and it says hello from inside a file. And if we go and look at our logs, double click on this, you can see that just before this, we read a text file again, and scrolling all the way to the right here, we confirm that that file is in fact openme.txt. So hopefully this gives you a great sense for how you can set breakpoints anywhere inside your activities, run your robot using F7, and then you can step into or step over and even run again to allow it to skip over steps and land on your next breakpoint. I'll hit F12 to stop. I see execution has been canceled. When you're done with your debugging, or you want to clear them out and set new breakpoints, just go back up here to the breakpoints, click on this, and say remove breakpoints. Then they all go away, and you can resume and set new breakpoints wherever you want. And I'll just call out again that an important thing to do is to make sure that you have log activities and highlight activities both checked, because this way you're going to capture the history in your log for further review. And with highlight activities on, you're always going to know which activity is currently executing because of that yellow outline we saw. So hopefully this was really helpful and you'll be able to figure out all those little weird problems in your robots.